So I decided I was going to do Knack 2 first, as it is a lot quicker to review and we can just knock that one right out the way and finish putting together the Sonic Forces one across the weekend. So this is the second to last game of 2017, and it's not a joke review, by the way. Like, many, like Frostheart, were like, who the fuck cares about Knack 2? And somewhere, but I've lost that other Discord posting, is like, just stop being absurd, stop being stupid, it's a joke game. Listen, Frosty, I love you, and you look damn sexy as a Serena, but it's not a joke, okay? It's not. And I feel that Knack 2, just from Donkey and its predecessor of Knack 1, has this stigmatism around it, like, ooh, Game of the Year, baby! It's not just a masterpiece. It's a Knacksterpiece. 100 out of 10! Game of the Century! But when it came time to stream this game, hence all of these files of me just recording the game, it was good. Like, Frost and many others were like, Spyro, it's a joke game. Stop being absurd. Stop being absurd. You're just being stupid. I mean, you're the dragon that can see good in Bubsy 3D. And Bubsy 3D is shit. Okay, granted, but I really want all of you to drop the donkey memes, drop any preconceived notions you have about Knack 2. Literally, come into this review with an open mind, and by the time you leave, well, I think even you, Frostheart, might be pleasantly surprised. The graphics are great. They're not the best, but for the world in which they wanted to create, that being mostly grounded in reality, but with a slight overflow of colourful and cartoony characters and aesthetics, well, they nailed it. While missing that shading flair Nintendo has to offer in terms of the pictures and the overall landscape, this does feel very Skyward Sword-esque. So all of the characters are very rich and bright. Again, not shaded, but, you know, we can make a couple of exceptions. We can let it slide. But the characters are very colourful and animated. And the overall worlds, again, are very colourful. Like the forests and the other floral landscapes, like the swamp ruins here, with the overgrown tower covered in moss. They've got nice bright greens and browns to add to that overall floral feel, and being that the game focuses around crystals and the Crystal War, there is also a lot of crystals growing everywhere that glow and emanate their own colours, and even in places like the desert, there is a variety of colours, like you have your reds and your yellows and your oranges, standard desert affair, but then there's some crystals that are blue and green, very bright blue, bright green, and it gives that oasis-like feel. So even in the desert, it has a nice rich colour palette. So in terms of the visuals, while not shaded somewhat and not the best, visually they did pretty much nail it. The music is also where they nail it. It's fantastic to the point where they even give you the soundtrack free with the game. But the music, like most of 2017, another soundtrack of the year. Again, not ironically liking it or joking, it's a Knacksterpiece, 100 out of 10. No, it's a genuinely good soundtrack. Each track fits the mood of the area we're in. I mean, let's look at this ancient mountain road. Desolate, isolated, and your only goal is to simply walk to the top of the road where the monastery is. Nothing more. Nothing to impede you, nothing to stop you. But the tone of the music is something else. It sets the feeling of a journey, like a enlightening walk to some sort of ancient monastery. There's just a road. No need to rush. Slow down. Walk to your destination and take it all in. Have a listen. And it really heavily reminds me of Hand Glider Valley from Croc 2, where again, no enemies, no real threats, just relax and have a gentle glide through this star-laden valley. And all the music is like that. Each track fits both the feel of the level, with like the forest areas having the more floral feeling music, and the tone of the area, be it the slower melody of the mountainside to emphasize your journey to the monastery at the top of the mountain, or a more louder, in-your-face orchestral theme to emphasize that this area is dangerous, and if you're not careful, you're going to get a sword or a spear right up your butt. And as I say, when getting the game, I was giving this soundtrack as a free bonus. So that shit's downloaded on my PC. Another soundtrack of the year. Very good shit. It's a lot better than the first one. we get some backstory into the world and have a more concrete, genuine understanding of the world we are in and the boss we are trying to kill. So, long ago, there were two races, the more common humans and elves, and they lived in harmony. But, sorry, like all harmonious stories, this can't last. So one day, a dark elf, because of course it has to be dark, found a new thing, metal, creating beasts of gleaming flesh. But these metal men needed a power source, and energy crystals were that source. Elves wanted to hoard the crystals for themselves, believing that the race of man and the common folk were unprepared to use the crystals. But man said crystals should be free to all, thus beginning the War of the Crystals, or the Crystal War. Wait.
Until a great discovery changed everything. A new form of magic, focused through crafted crystals, offered power that rivaled the Magistrate's own. A crystal-powered revolution overtook the realm. The uses were limitless, and the realm's future seemed brighter than ever. Such power was not meant to be wielded by commoners, Grand Magister Karn snarled. This will destroy all that we have built and deliver us back to chaos. This has the power to improve the lives of everyone in the realm. A power that should not just benefit the Magistrate, Kroll. So when the Magistrate came for the crystals, there was only one possible outcome. War. A brutal war.
I mean, the Crystal War was alluded to in Knack 1. Hold on, when did that come out? Huh. Paladins, were you playing Knack when it come out? Come up with this idea of going to war for crystals of power? But so began the Crystal War. Spoilers, humans with the crystals eventually destroyed the Dark Elf, or the Dark Elf was destroyed? Question mark? Of course not. Or why are the robots back? So yes, the Dark Elf survived and is once again trying to usher in the Age of Metal. Wait. The Age of Metal?
It was an anthem of the people, and they called it heavy metal.
When was Knack made? And when was Brutal Legend made? Okay. I mean, that one's slightly more of a joke, as the word metal has a different inflection, but now it's funny to think that the Dark Elf no longer wants to usher in the Age of Metal, but the Age of Metal. And with Knack dead, the fire beast Ormagoden rose from the earth. However, the elves did not anticipate the blinding awe of the fire beast, becoming the first ones. They lured him down to the land, using the sweet song of Aetulia, dousing the beast's body in flames, and killing Ormagoden. But his body shot up into the sky and exploded, his body shooting into the earth, creating the metal spiders and the crystals that lay around, his blood becoming the oceans, and his fiery soul becoming the sun, burning all of the elves to dust. The gameplay is pretty good, but with a stipulation. It's only good if you put it on the hardest difficulty, the very hard difficulty. Now that might sound crazy, but hear me out, as I think that's where a lot of the negativity and all of these negative connotations comes from. So, First, Knack 2 is a linear-ish adventure beat-em-up. So you walk down a linear path on an adventure, but there are a few hidden side paths, and these side paths always lead to a puzzle that have a relic or power-up of some kind behind them. And once you have it, then you backtrack back to the main path. This aspect works fine for the game it wants to be. There's enough set pieces and fights to make the path feel alive and fine, and the secrets are sometimes well hidden. Like, I've beat the stage and it's like, oh, sorry dude, you missed one of the two, or 2 of the 4 hidden paths. What? Where? I couldn't see them. I searched all over that hallway. Where were they? So it does actually require a good look around to find the hidden pathways and to find all of the other secrets. Now, moving on to the beat 'em up part of the game. This is why I said you need to set it to the very hard difficulty, as a lot of people are like, Knack 2 is boring, and I think I know why, as the AI actually does scale really, really well with the different modes, and if you play on easy or normal, yeah, it's boring, and yes, it does suck a lot, as the AI has been drinking lead-based paints and sniffing glue for the past 24 hours, so even when you're blatantly in front of them, well, you know, leave him alone. He's a special snowflake, okay? But I found putting it on the very hard difficulty, which honestly is not all that hard, the enemies feel more like, dare I say it, Dark Souls enemies. And no, not as in, haha, it's the Dark Souls of beat 'em ups, haha, funny meme. No, they feel like how Dark Souls enemies would feel and act. Like how in Dark Souls enemies would dodge your attacks and know when they're getting hit, so they would attack you, so you have to learn to jump out of the way. It feels a lot like that on very hard. Like you can't just run in and punch till they're dead. The enemies have quite decent AI and will dodge, block and attack you accordingly, with some requiring certain moves to either break their guard or finish them off. And if death occurred, I did feel for the most part that it was not the game being cheap like Knack 1, but it was my own poor play. For the most part, as some enemies, I was just trying to brute my way through the guy. No, Spyro, it's like Dark Souls, Spyro. That won't work, Spyro. Let him attack you. Dodge. Learn what he's doing. Learn the best time to attack. Learn when to break his guard. And in doing so, boom, won easily, nothing to it. And because the enemies were an actual challenge and were no longer boring button mashers, I was actually having fun. I was having to dodge and attack accordingly, so it made the overall combat a lot more enjoyable. So I was having a lot more fun with the game. And even if you find yourself struggling on a very hard mode, well, as I'm showing here, just find a good respawn spot and farm one enemy. As you can see, he will always respawn, he will always drop XP to open up more combos on the rune wall here, so effectively you can get all the balls on that one section of wall to complete it right off the bat, and then you can just go through the rest of the level saving up for the next part of the wall. So even if you're having a hard time, don't worry, there is always a workaround. So yeah, very hard is definitely recommended to get the most enjoyment out of this game. And as for the power-ups themselves on that rune wall, they are things like extra combos or extra damage and such. And as mentioned above, yes, even on very hard, they will start to make you outclass the very hard AI. Extra health means more HP, and that more HP means the enemy can't deal as much damage as I'm dishing out, so I can now brute force through some of them regardless of my HP as it regenerates after a set amount of time. I've got 3 sections of this rune wall open to the point in the game where I am. I've got 2 of the walls 100% complete, and I'm starting on the 3rd. And while it's not happened yet, I am starting to feel that unstoppable monster poking through the cracks. It's not quite there yet, but he's a-coming. So I do think the final boss might be a bit of a joke. However, I'm still having fun right now, both with the combat and the exploration. So yeah, gameplay, again, while it's not the best, if you set it to very hard mode, the enemies do have a slightly Dark Souls-esque feel with their smarter AI, so it gives you a lot more enjoyment out of the combat, so you will have a lot more fun with the game, and it gives you that extra drive to keep going. So, my final verdict for Knack 2 is a pretty good 3 out of 5. Like, it's not the best game, but it's above average, and above average is still better than the first one, that was pretty shit. It has pretty good graphics and music, and the gameplay and story are not half bad, and at points I was even really enjoying myself, and I found it really enjoyable. And I do think it's worth playing. If you can look past Donkey, look past the memes, and come into this game with an open mind and be a lot more accepting of it, well, you just might enjoy it, and you might find an underappreciated jewel buried within all that dirt.